I'm going to show you 10 steps to help you get started editing with Premiere Pro.
This is meant to be a beginner's guide, so let's go ahead and boot up Premiere Pro. Now that Premiere Pro has booted up, your screen should look something like this. I'm using version 25.3. Yours might look a little different if you're not using that version. Either way, what you want to do is come up here to the top left and click on New Project. Now we're going to give our project a name and set its location. For the name, I'm going to call this Premiere Beginner, and I'm going to set its location to an external hard drive. And I always go ahead and click on this Skip Import mode. Yours might look like this. If it does, go ahead and click that little check mark box, and we're going to import our footage on our own. So let's go ahead and create our first project. This is your workspace, and what you can see here are a bunch of different panels, and I'll cover those throughout the video. If yours doesn't look like this, what you want to do is come up here to the top right and click on this icon called Workspaces, and come down here and click on Editing. You can also come up here to the menu bar and click on Window, Workspaces, and go to Editing. If your workspace gets messed up, go to Workspaces, come down here to Reset to save layout. Now you're ready to import assets into Premiere, but before you do that, you want to be organized. And the way we stay organized is by coming down here to the project panel and clicking on this icon here, the new bin icon. And when we click on that, it creates a folder, and we're going to call this folder B-roll. We're going to create another one and call that music. Now just double click inside the B-roll bin and right click and go to import. And I'll select these clips and hit import. And now let's go back by hitting this icon here to go back to our bins. Double click on music, right click, import, and I'll click on this file here and import that. Click on this icon again to go back to our bins, and let's take a look at our footage. Right now you see your footage as these thumbnails, and that's because we're working in what's called icon view, and you can tell that right here in the bottom left with this button. You can switch over to list view, and that will list your footage like this, but for this tutorial we are going to work in icon view. Now let's create your first sequence. A sequence is essentially all of your clips and assets put together on a single timeline to create a video. The easiest way to do that in Premiere is by finding the footage you want to use, click, hold, and drag it over here into your timeline. And now you see your video shows up as a video layer, your audio shows up as an audio layer, and if we take this right here, the playhead, and scrub back and forth, you can see as we scrub back and forth in the program panel up here to the top right, it will reflect what's going on down here in your timeline. And now if you look over here in your project panel, you see you have a new icon. This is the sequence icon. This is all the footage that we uploaded earlier. And if you look down here in the bottom right, you can see this is the sequence icon for the sequence you just created. When you click and drag your footage into the timeline panel, it creates your sequence based on the footage settings. And you can tell that by coming up here to the menu bar, clicking on sequence, go to sequence settings, and you can see this is our footage. It's 1920 by 1080. Now you can change all this in here if you like, but for now, we're just going to leave it as is. The next thing you want to do is rename your sequence, because right now you have Lighthouse Wide and Lighthouse Wide. It can get confusing. So all you do is double click on this text, and we're going to call this Lighthouse Video. And now our sequence is renamed, and you can see that right here. Now you're ready to add some more footage. Let's click and hold on Lighthouse Medium and drag that down here into our timeline. And you can see it'll snap right to this clip. If that doesn't happen for you, you want to click on this icon right here, the Snap in Timeline button. Now let's add this other piece of footage, this Lighthouse close-up, using the Source panel. The Source panel is used to preview clips and chop them up. To do that, all you do is double-click on the footage that you want, and it puts it up here in the Source panel. Then all you have to do is scrub back and forth to find where you want it to start. Let's say I want this video to start right here. I'll hit the letter I on my keyboard to mark an endpoint, or you can click on this button here, the Mark Endpoint button, and I'll come to the end of this clip right about here, and I'll click the letter O on my keyboard to set an out point, or you can click on this icon here, Mark Out Point. Then all you have to do is click, hold, and drag from the Source panel down here into your timeline. And now you have this long shot into the medium shot, and then that medium shot will eventually go right into the close-up. The way that you can play footage in your timeline is by hitting the space bar. If you hit the space bar, it'll play, and if you hit the space bar again, it will stop your footage. Now before we move any further, what you're going to want to do is save your project, and the way you can do that is by hitting Control or Command S on your keyboard, Or you can come up to the top here and click on File, and then come down here and click on Save. Now let's cover some of the basic editing tools that you're going to need to know. The first and most used tool is a selection tool, and that's this tool right here, and you can click on that, or you can click on the letter V on your keyboard. The selection tool allows you to select clips down here in your timeline. You can click and drag and select all of them. You can move clips around in your timeline, and if you come to the end or beginning of a clip, and the icon will change, and you can trim a clip just by clicking and dragging it back, and then you can move your clips like this, snap it to the next clip, or you can click inside this blank space and hit the delete or backspace button on your keyboard, and it will close that gap. The next tool is the Track Select Forward tool, or A on your keyboard, and this will allow you to select clips to the right of anywhere that you click. So if you had a whole bunch of clips down here in your timeline, if these were all duplicated and you had a whole bunch of these just kind of going all over the place, you could take your Track Select Forward tool and select all of those clips. It just makes it a lot easier if you have a bunch of footage in your timeline. If you click and hold on the Track Select Forward tool and come down to the Track Select Backward tool, it will do the exact opposite. Just click and select everything to the left of where you click. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of all of these clips here because we don't need them. And let's move on to the next tool, which is the Ripple Edit tool. The Ripple Edit tool, or B on your keyboard, will allow you to trim clips and automatically close the gap between those two clips. So if we click and hold and drag this back to say right about here, it will automatically close the gap between those clips. Another popular tool is called the Rate Stretch tool. So if we click and hold on the Ripple Edit tool, we come down here to the Rate Stretch tool, or R on your keyboard. Now the Rate Stretch tool will allow you to speed up or slow down a clip. So if we bring this playhead back here and we come to the end of this clip and just click and hold, drag this out, it will slow this clip down. And if we take it and then move it forward a little bit, this clip will then speed up. The next tool is the Razor tool, or C on your keyboard. And the Razor tool will allow you to cut clips down here in your timeline. So you can make a cut here and then go back to your selection tool, select this clip, delete it, and then close the gap by clicking in this space and hitting backspace or delete, and it'll snap that forward. You can make a whole bunch of different cuts on your footage. I'm just going to undo those, and the way that you can undo is by hitting Control or Command Z on your keyboard. And the final basic editing tool you need to know is the Type tool, or T on your keyboard. This will allow you to put text onto your footage. So if we come up here to the program monitor, you can see our cursor is changed. And if we just click in here, we can type out whatever we want. We're going to go ahead and type the word lighthouse. Now you can see you have the text lighthouse on your screen, and down here in your timeline you now have a graphics layer. So if we grab our selection tool and we just move this around like we can move around any other video, we'll move it back to the beginning, bring our playhead back over here so we can see our text. And this text looks a little dull, so what we're going to do is we're going to spice it up a little bit. The way we do that is by clicking on our text layer and coming up here to the top left and click on this panel here, the Effects Controls panel. Here in our Effects Controls panel, you can see right down here you have the text lighthouse. If we toggle this arrow down, we see we have all the parameters for our text. Let's go ahead and change our text. Let's change it to Arial Black. And let's go ahead and increase the size of our text. All you have to do is grab this slider and drag it to the right, and let's make it something about like that. Now if we scroll down, we can see we have a whole bunch of different parameters. We can change the color, add a stroke, add a shadow. But before we do that, let's move our text into the center of our screen over here in the program monitor. So if we grab our selection tool and come over here, we can move our text around all in this screen, but we want to make sure it's dead center. So if we hold down the Control or Command key on our keyboard, we can then see these little red lines that show up that allow us to see that our text is dead center in our footage. Now let's go ahead and add a stroke. If we come over here, the fill color is the color of your text. We're going to leave ours white, but you can change the color just by clicking in this box and selecting a color down here. But let's add a stroke. Let's click on the check mark box, and let's say we want to make it red. So let's add a red stroke to it, say OK. These numbers right here, you can increase the width of the stroke to make it bigger or smaller. We're going to leave ours at 4.0. And let's add a shadow. So if we click on shadow, we get our shadow parameters. Let's change the color. Right now it's a light gray. Let's make it black. Say OK, and let's make the opacity of it 100%. And the shadow just allows it to pop off the screen a little more. Great, now we've got our text where we want it. We got it looking good, and now you're ready to add some effects. I want this text to fade out, and we're going to do that with a cross dissolve effect. The way you find all of your effects is by coming down here to the effects panel or hit Shift 7 on your keyboard. And what you're looking for are the video transitions. Come down here, toggle this down, look for dissolve, toggle that down, and then right here is our cross dissolve. So we're going to add this onto the end of this clip. Now, before we do that, I want to zoom in so you can see that happen. And the way we zoom in our timeline is by hitting the plus key on our keyboard. And then you can zoom out by hitting the minus key. So we're just going to zoom back in. I'm going to grab the cross dissolve, click, hold, and drag it right here onto the end of our clip. And now, if I bring this back and play this forward, you'll see the clip fade out. Now let's say you wanted to make that a little longer. All you have to do is come over here to your effect, see the icon changes, and then we can just drag this back a little bit. And now if we play it, it'll fade out just a little longer. Let's go ahead and zoom back out. And a quick way that you can zoom back out to see all your footage is by hitting the backslash key on your keyboard. So we'll hit that, and now we can see all of our footage. I want these two clips to fade into each other. So we'll add the cross dissolve in between those. So we'll come over here, I'll zoom in so you can see this happen, and click, hold, and drag the cross dissolve right in between the two clips. And you can see it's covering both of them. If I come over here, it's only on the end of one or the beginning of the other. So you want it right in the middle. And now we'll just drag this out just a little bit, and we'll play this and watch it fade into each other. And there you go. We'll zoom back out, hitting the backslash key, and now we're going to add a dip to black effect at the end of our video. So another way you can find effects is by coming up here to the search bar, and right now we're just going to type in dip to black. Here's our effect. We're going to go ahead and grab it and drag it on to the end of this last clip and bring it back just a little bit. And now if we play the end of the video, it'll fade out. Let's add a little more to the text. I want it to move around a little bit. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a simple animation using what is called keyframing. Keyframing is essentially a simple animation using in and out points. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to our lighthouse graphic layer. We're going to click on that and come up here to the effects controls panel. And we're looking for scale. I want this text to kind of zoom in. So what we're going to do is we are going to set some in and out points using keyframes. I'll come down here to the timeline, and I'm going to move my playhead right about into the middle of this clip. Then I'm going to come up here to scale, and I'm going to click on this icon, the stopwatch, the toggle animation icon. So if I click on that, you can see over here, you now have this little diamond. That is a keyframe. Its value is 100. So right now the scale is at 100. If I bring this playhead back to the beginning and I come up here, I can add another keyframe by simply clicking right here. I can also add a keyframe by adjusting the value. So if I click and hold and drag this to the left, it will go down to 0, and you'll see there's another keyframe right here. So if we come down here to the timeline and play this, you'll see the text zoom in. All right, that looks pretty cool, but we're going to make this look better. Right now, our animation is linear, so it's basically a straight line. And you can see that if we toggle this down here, and you can see it's a straight line. What we're going to do is we are going to make this animation a little bit more dynamic. What we can do is come up here to our last keyframe, and we're going to right-click on the keyframe, and we're going to come down here to ease in. And now you can see our graph has changed. And this will allow it to ease into the animation at the end. You can also adjust the speed of that by clicking on these little handles. So if I click on this and just drag it over, I can increase the speed of our animation. So we'll leave it something like that. Now if we play it, it will ease into the end of the animation. There, that looks much more professional. Now let's adjust the color of this first clip. We want to make it a little brighter, a little more vibrant. And the way we do that is by coming over here to our effects panel, and in the search bar, we're going to type in Lumetri Color. Come down here to the Lumetri Color effect, click, hold, and drag it onto this first clip. And now you see up here in the effects controls panel, you have the Lumetri Color effect. What you're going to do is toggle down this one right here, basic correction, scroll down, and we're just going to adjust the exposure. So if we bring this up, it will brighten up the clip. So let's bring it up to right about there. And then you can adjust the saturation to make it look a little bit better. So we'll go with something about like that. So here's a little before and after, and that looks pretty good. So now you're ready to add some music. To add music, you're going to come down here, back to your bins, click on this icon here to go back to see both bins. We'll double click the music, and here's our music file. Now you can simply take this music file and just click and drag it down here to one of your audio tracks, or you can double click it and put it up in your source monitor. In your source monitor, you can scrub through your music to find a particular spot. Now, when you put it in your source monitor, you can't drag right from inside the source monitor. It'll just continue scrubbing. So to add music from your source monitor, you have to come down here to the drag audio only button. Click, hold, and drag that, and now we'll add it down to audio track number 2. So if we zoom out hitting the minus key, you can see that this audio track is really, really long. You can shorten it really simply by just cutting the end and then deleting the rest of it. But what that'll do is that will have your music end abruptly, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you another tool called the Remix tool. So if you come up to the Ripple Edit tool, click, hold, and come down here to the Remix tool. Now the Remix tool will lengthen or shorten your music to fit your video. So if we take the Remix tool and come down here to the end and click and drag this back, Premiere Pro will do a clip analysis. Once the clip analysis is done, your video and music now match. So if we play this near the end, our music will fade out with our video. Now you'll notice over here in your audio meters that the music peaked, which means it's too loud. So we need to adjust the audio. There's a couple different ways you can do that. To adjust the audio, you can come over here to your selection tool, right click, and go to audio gain. And then this will pop up and you can adjust it. You can hit like -4, -5. I'm going to cancel that because I want to show you how you can adjust it from the track itself. If we expand this track by clicking and holding and dragging it down, we can see our audio much better. And you're looking for this white line. So if we zoom in a little bit, we can take this white line and just click and hold and drag it down, and our audio will become much quieter. You can also expand your video tracks as well so you can see a bigger thumbnail. Now let's go ahead and play our music and make sure it doesn't peak. Perfect. Now you're ready to export your video. Exporting is getting everything in your timeline out of Premiere as a finished video. The way you do that is by coming up here to the very top and click on Export. You can go to File, come down to Export Media, or you can make sure you're selected in your timeline and hit Command or Control M on your keyboard to bring up the export window. This is the export window, and you want to pay attention to a couple of things before you actually export your video. Up here we have our file name, the location, the preset, and the format. But before we mess with any of that, you want to come down here and pay attention to the range. Make sure it's selected on entire source. There's source in and out, work area, and custom. We want to stay on entire source, and you can tell it's your entire source by coming over here to the right and looking at this time code here. Our video is 19 seconds and 11 frames long. Now we want to adjust our format. The format here is H.264. And there's a bunch of different formats that Adobe provides. I suggest using H.264. Then you're going to want to come to your preset. In the preset, leave it at match source adaptive high bitrate, but there's a bunch of different presets that you could use as well. We're going to leave it here. Now our location. You set the location of your video by clicking on this blue text here. I'm going to leave it where it is right now. And now let's go ahead and give our file its final name, and we'll call this Lighthouse Video Finished. And now all you have to do is come down here to the bottom right and click on Export and let Premiere Pro do its thing.
Now your video is exported and it's ready to be shared out. Make sure to check out this video here to take your editing further.